Salutations friends, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I'm going to be doing a fragrance first impression and mini review of the newest fragrance from Etat Libre d'Orange, and it's the Ghost in the Shell. And I got stuff to say, just let's get into the video. First things first, I bought this the second I saw the marketing for this. I bought it. Huge Ghost in the Shell fan. Huge. Masamune Shirow is probably somebody that, when it comes down to media, that I've just consumed over the course of my life. The manga, the movie, love complex, just everything. I was going to name my new car after Tachikomas. I love Tachikomas. I'm not a fan of the movie. I know that there was a lot of controversy around the movie with the casting of ScarJo. I completely respect and understand the controversy, but I thought, knowing that ScarJo is a tremendous actress, that was one of the worst movies I've ever seen her do. Like, my thought is with the controversy around it, like, freaking own it. Like, the Major is confident, she's powerful, she's assertive, but she's still figuring out who she is, and she just seemed like a very wishy-washy Major. And my thought was, if you're at least going to take this role, this iconic person, like, own it. And it was just so visually it was cool, but everything else about it I thought was garbage. But that's just my own personal opinion. But let me just say that very rarely do some of my very real, like, kind of like more nerdy, kind of a little bit more juvenile obsessions cross into fragrance. And honestly, Ghost in the Shell isn't juvenile. It's actually very mature. A lot of fantastic social commentary on what it means to be human and how you interact with the world, like what is you and like what is not you. I could like go way into it. I'm not going to, but I love Etat Libre d'Orange, and I think that they're one of the houses that kind of takes interesting ideas and translates them to fragrances. Sometimes they're a little out of the box, Secretions Magnifiques, but when I saw this, I was like, that's it, I'm buying it. So I have been anticipating this since like the money left my account. So this is the fragrance. I'm gonna give you a little bit of the blurb, and then I will go into the first impressions, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come back after a few hours and give you kind of like a review of this without so much in regards to longevity. So let's get into it. So a little blurb, I found this on ifragranceofficial.com, and then I'll read what Etat Libre d'Orange says. Is the Ghost in the Shell is a new floral woody chypre for men and women, launched in 2021. I think it's like officially launching in the States the 30th, but I purchased it, and I think that's for some people they just pushed it earlier. I think I just got lucky. I'm not exactly sure why I got my bottle a little bit earlier, but that's what I heard was the official launch in the States was going to be the 30th. I could be wrong. Letting you guys know what I heard. By mixing biotech and natural materials, this perfume silently celebrates the wake of the future and also whispers of a day to come. When humanity is reunited and organized, this perfume is the future. And what Etat Libre d'Orange says is that this fragrance, no, I do not want to go, merge the matter, birth of the spirit. There's a lot. There's, you know what, I'm just gonna link the site because there's a lot to read and you guys don't want me to like look at my phone. But the notes in this, butcher this, I'll link them in the description box. But if you want me to butcher everything, here we go. The top notes are Aqual, Yuzu, Hexyl, Acetate, main Biotech. Heart notes are Jasmin, Absolute, Mugane, Milky Skin Accord. If it's the same type of milky skin that you'll get in Secretions, I'm horrified. And then the base notes are Moss Accord, Vinyl, Gaiacol, and Orcanox. So I'm going to open it and then I'm going to let you guys know what I think. The video is obviously going to be way less like structured, even though my videos aren't structured. I'm just like fangirling over here. This could be like the worst smelling perfume ever, and I'd still probably love it just because I just love this property. Like, I can't tell you how much I love this property. So the bottle is fantastic. Normally I don't really show too much of the presentation, but it's really cool. Their marketing for this was really, really fun too. And yes, I bought the giant bottle. My thought is if I love it, I got a giant bottle. And if not, I have a giant cool looking bottle in my collection. So I did buy the large bottle. So as always, with my first impressions, I will tell you how this will go. First and foremost, I'm going to be trying this on my skin. My skin, I don't have any fragrance on, so I'm gonna let you guys know what I think of the opening. I'm gonna come back in probably like 15 to 20 minutes and let you guys know what I think of the dry down. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm probably going to do a few hours of work, probably 2 to 3 hours, and come back and let you guys know if it smells the same or if it's developed differently. I do notice, at least on my skin, Etat Libre orange fragrances tend to be a little bit more linear, so I don't think I need to let it like completely like dry down and like, you know, grow on my skin or develop on my skin for like 6 to 8 hours. 2 to 3 hours should be enough. And if I feel this fragrance needs a more thorough updated review, probably in a few weeks I'll give you a more updated review. I do that from time to time on first impression videos if the fragrance like completely changes from my first impression. So here we have the fragrance, and we're gonna put it on my hand, and I'm just gonna give it like 15-20 seconds and I'll let you guys know how it smells. Okay, so first things, like I have PTSD from Secretions Magnifiques, and that milky skin, like there's that like milky like lactonic, it's in there, and it's kind of works really well with this. So this is a very citrusy, bright, there's something about it that smells kind of robotic. I'm not just saying that, like the notes in this are, this fragrance is designed to smell like the future, like different, like biomechanical to some degree. And I love that Etat Libre d'Orange does that. They don't shy away from being creative with their fragrances and actually following through with the fragrance. Sometimes fragrance houses will have this amazing marketing of this fragrance, and then you smell it and it smells good, but it doesn't smell like how it was marketed at. And the best way I can describe this is it smells like how it's marketed. Like it's kind of really interesting, at least in the opening. The milkiness is in there. There's this accord that kind of smells like plastic, but I don't know if it's an accord. There's something about this that kind of smells like plastic, but not negative. I actually like the smell of plastic, like not like burnt plastic, not like plastic that's negative. Sometimes certain items that are plastic have this really unique and interesting smell. Scent memory wise, I've talked about this before. I love the smell of like plastic cooking foods for kids. Like it's a very nostalgic memory for me. It's almost like this sweet plastic smell. I'm obsessed with that smell. This doesn't smell like that, but there's something that kind of reminds me of something that's clean, like a clean room, but not like a disinfectant, not like chemically, not like harsh or sharp or abrasive. It smells very interesting. I'm getting a little bit of the jasmine. The yuzu is bright. I really like yuzu. The milkiness is still there. I'm gonna give this 15 to 20 minutes to dry down on my skin, and then we will come back and I will let you guys know what I think. Okay, I've literally just been sitting here like reading my emails. That's usually what I do. So this pretty much smells the same. It's a little less loud, but it's still very present on the skin. It is really cool. Now, if you know me, if this is your first time turning in, I'm so sorry. If you know me, I love challenging fragrances. I like fragrances that smell different. I like fragrances that smell creative. I like fragrances that push boundaries. I wouldn't say that this smells like a boundary pushing fragrance, but this is very creative, and it's very solid that it smells like this concept of smelling like, it's not so much the major, but kind of like what the Ghost in the Shell is, like kind of like this futuristic, almost like cyberpunk. I wouldn't say dystopian, it's nowhere near dystopian. This is really interesting where life will be like 100 to 150 years from now in this world, and the questions that humanity is going to ask as we progress and evolve, or if we progress and evolve to a more kind of cyberistic, almost like singularity level of, you know, where our consciousness is. Is our consciousness going to stay in these little meat sacks? Oops, sorry. In these little meat sacks, or is our consciousness going to expand and go out there? Are we going to be part of like this connected network? And if so, where does our individuality and our humanity lie? Does it lie in our bodies, in our minds, in our souls, in our consciousness? There's a lot of questions. So like if that whole idea was translated to a fragrance, I think this smells dang close to what it would be. So first things first, the milkiness is still there. I'm getting less of that like worried secretions milkiness. It's kind of died down a little bit. It's very pleasant. It's not a creamy milk. How do I describe it? So you have like whole milk. If people drink milk, you have like whole milk, and then you drink like skim milk. So you know like the mouth feel that whole milk has, like when you drink it, and then you kind of have that mouth feel of skim milk. That's kind of what I mean like by like how it smells. It's not creamy, it's not like tonic, it's not thick, but there's this like light skim milky kind of palette smell to it, and I really like that. It's very thin, very translucent, but it works really well. I love that it still smells like this weird, interesting, very fantastic kind of plasticky note, like plasticky, but not harsh, not abrasive, not sharp, not like synthetic chemically, like a lot of fragrances can smell. This smells deliberate, and that's what I like to see in fragrances, is things being deliberate. It doesn't mean that has to be an everyday wearable fragrance for somebody, but for a unique experience, something that you could wear every day, I think this smells fantastic. I love the fact that you get a jasmine in here, and the jasmine is slightly green, and paired with the moss is really nice. And you've got this really fantastic yuzu, which is slightly bitter and pithy. So you've got these like kind of really nice ideas of brightness, nice aromatic florals, and a beautiful green base, like just great. And that's working with this kind of idea of kind of a little bit more biomechanical. I don't know, it's really hard to completely explain this fragrance because I've only been wearing it for like 20 minutes, and like I can't completely wrap my head around it, but that's kind of exciting for me. Like I'm getting like genuinely really excited for this. So I'm gonna give this 2 hours. I'm gonna go do some work on my computer over here. Maybe I'll pack up some bottles. I am going to be slowly packing up. I don't know if you can see, I'm slowly packing up. Maybe I'll make a few trips, pack some bottles up, and then I will let you guys know what I think. All right, I'm back. It's been about an hour and a half, so it hasn't been crazy long, but this fragrance seems to be very linear, so I don't think that I need to really let it sit on my skin too long. It's still riding pretty strong, and Etat Libre de Orange fragrances generally have pretty good longevity, so I'm not too worried about this fragrance dying on my skin within the next 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm going to give you my final thoughts, and I kind of want to talk about this a little bit, so this is going to be a longer video. First things first, this fragrance will not be for everybody. It's definitely on the conceptual side, and Etat Libre de Orange is actually very phenomenally amazing at creating these kind of conceptual ideas and translating them to fragrances. Some of them are more wearable and some of them are just not wearable for a lot of people, but I like that they don't shy away from creating something new and unique. I don't think this is the type of fragrance that is completely like you haven't smelled before, but I do like that there are little touches and finishes with this fragrance that smell unique and to its own, at least to my nose based on my experience, and that's something that I really like. And that has to do with kind of like this kind of very kind of sterile, but still very kind of humanistic smell. And that is kind of like this idea of it smelling kind of plasticky, kind of sterile, but that milkiness is kind of giving this a little bit of a life to it, and I really enjoy. Again, in the very beginning, I was horrified by the milky note, just initially because I have PTSD from Secretions Magnifiques. But I will say something about this fragrance that I think needs to be said, and that this is wearable. Sound like it's wearable. This will not be wearable for everybody, but this is not like Secretions. This is not something that's designed to turn you away. This is not designed to be an experience that is to be suffered, a challenge. This is a bit of a challenging fragrance, especially because it does have those notes that might smell a little bit too synthetic for some people, but by design, I believe this fragrance is very intentionally. This fragrance smells like a sterile room that you might go into to get another body because your last body was destroyed when you were ripping a tank apart with your bare hands. That's kind of what this reminds of. If you were to walk in on the Major, kind of having her ghost put into a new body, this is what that room would smell like. And to me, I think that that is really exciting. I love and cherish, and I search for fragrances that take these very conceptual, very interesting, very creative prompts and successfully translate them to fragrance. Now, it doesn't have to be something that is like, it smells like you're a cyberpunk, warrior, and this is what it looks like when your body gets rebuilt. It could be as simple as, the video I talked about, I'll link it below, where it was like mermaid fragrances, and it wasn't just like mermaid, it was like there was some thought put into the creation of these fragrances, where it was like enchanting, and it smelled like the sea, and there was some driftwood, and it smelled misty and sirenistic. It's not a word. Like, that's what I want to see in creativity with fragrance. It doesn't have to be something so kind of out of the box like this is. It could be something as simple as kind of creating an idea of like walking through a carnival, and what would that smell like? So maybe you have sweet notes like cotton candy and grass, and maybe it's like a gourmand, so you might have some cola in there, maybe some tobacco, and it just kind of is like an experience of you walking through a carnival, or things like that. It doesn't have to be so avant-garde, so out of the box, so challenging, so hard to understand. You can create creative fragrances that are crowd-pleasing and mainstream and people really love and gravitate towards. This is not one of those fragrances, but it's also not as challenging as it could be. They could have put like an oily note in here, they could have put smoke, they could have put a lot of different things in here that still would have been relevant to the story and to kind of the creative prompt of Ghost in the Shell and a futuristic fragrance in a cyberpunk world. But they didn't, and I think that that is really awesome, because this isn't so much like Major Kusanagi. This is very much the kind of idea of what Ghost in the Shell is, the theme through across all the properties, which I still don't like. It has more to do with how would the future smell, and I think that this was done very creatively. So again, this is a very light fragrance. It is heavy on the moss and the yuzu. The yuzu is still there, which is really, really nice. The jasmine in here is again very green. The yuzu is bitter and pithy. The moss is very, very dense, and I love that. But I also like that there's translucence kind of smell to this fragrance. And again, I love that that milkiness kind of pairs in with that kind of like sweet, sterile just smell that it has. So is this a safe blind buy? No. No, it's not a safe blind buy. But out of all of the fragrances from Etat Libre d'Orange, this is not the craziest. This is a very interesting, very unique fragrance that I'm really enjoying. I've only been wearing it for a few hours, but at the same time, this is something I can see myself wearing. I like to smell like this. I like to smell woody aromatic. I like to smell like fruits and florals. And there are times I like to smell more conceptual and more challenging. And this is a fragrance that I really enjoy. I think if I could describe it in one word, it smells very sterile but not dead, and it also doesn't smell soapy. It's a very unique smell, definitely worth checking out. I've really been enjoying it, again, only for the few hours, and this is something I can see myself wearing a lot more of. So kudos to Etat Libre d'Orange for creating a very unique, fun fragrance, and I love it. If they want to create a Tachikoma fragrance and really have it like heavy on the oil, I would be down with that too. I don't know how much I could wear that fragrance, but I would be okay with a companion fragrance to go with this. But that's just my general thoughts. So this scent is not for everybody, but it is definitely worth trying. I think it is a very successful conceptual fragrance that was done with a lot of thought and a lot of balance, and done in a very successful way. So that is my thoughts on Ghost in the Shell from Etat Libre d'Orange, the semi-reviewed first impression. If you had the opportunity to try this fragrance, I'd love to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time.